There's a point in the pursuit of strength where if you've done enough cool things, new opportunities and experiences start to present themselves to you. And at the top of a lot of powerlifters' bucket list is getting invited out to the Table Talk podcast with Dave Tate. Now, everyone knows about the Joe Rogan podcast and how it's the number one podcast in the world. And every subgenre of activities or hobbies has an equivalent to the Joe Rogan podcast, and that happens to be the Elite FTS Table Talk podcast. And I was lucky enough to be invited out to London, Ohio to be on the Elite FTS podcast. Here's my experience. One of the cool things about the Elite FTS podcast is that they do everything in person. So I had to journey all the way out to Ohio in order to be on the podcast. And let me say, driving 16 hours isn't that bad, but New York can suck my dick. But after driving all the way out there, I got to experience the compound for what it was. And it's basically the ultimate powerlifter's paradise. And in that experience, I got to train with the Elite FTS training crew. And I asked my coach for something cool for me to do. And unlike me with every woman I've ever been with, Coach did not disappoint. He said, "All right, Patrick, sack up. We're going to be benching 500 for triples." And one of the people I was benching with was Amber Hansen, one of the greatest female powerlifters of all time. And as she was closest to a meet, she got to select the bar that we were using. And she selected the F8 bench bar. Now, I've never benched on an F8 bench bar before. I've only ever used power bars. But I will tell you this, using a bar that's specifically made for multiply lifters in the unlimited category to reduce the amount of bar whip, it made 500 pounds feel like 135. I absolutely felt like I was cheating. But as we finished up our benching at 505, because what's 5 pounds among friends, we had some back downs at 455 pounds, and those felt equally as easy, if not easier. Logically speaking, it should be easier because it's less weight. I personally have never trained with a training crew before, so the experience of having high-level powerlifters all surrounding me and giving input, giving me cues, and the whole experience of doing rounds and everything was a pretty cool one to experience, especially with some of the best powerlifters on the planet. Being able to keep up with the volume and pace and the rotations with all the other powerlifters, high-level powerlifters, was super cool to experience. And once we finished our back down sets, we got to explore the gym a little bit. If you could dream a piece of equipment, they had it there. One of the coolest things about the Elite FTS compound is that the warehouse and gym were both in the same building. So if you can kind of think about it, they're able to prototype a lot of their equipment in a high-level powerlifting situation even before it gets shipped out to gyms all across the world. So they had everything from grips for cable machines in the shape of emojis because you want to stimulate different kinds of grips and different ligaments in the forearms when you're doing the grip stuff and doing the cable stuff, and it hits different parts of the body when you do it like that. They also had the prettiest dumbbells I'd ever seen, and they had the fat bells. They had everything that you can really imagine. If there's been a fad about a powerlifting implement, they had it. So it was kind of cool to see a gym use a lot of its competitors' equipments alongside with its own versions of equipment to kind of prototype and do its own market research as to what implements of certain objects and products works better for which lifters. So they do a lot more research, and it was a powerlifting heaven, basically, where they had everything you could ever imagine. The only unfortunate part about this is that on my bench day, I don't have a lot of cool, creative things that I'm doing throughout my bench day. If missionary position gets the job done, why do you have to change things up? Especially as we get closer and closer to the American Pro 3, where we'll be putting up a really big total. So we don't want to be changing a lot of things that will require us to adapt to new stimuli while performing our regular bench day duties. So what we had was our top sets of bench at 505, the back downs at 455. We did incline dumbbell bench press at 125 with the 125 pound dumbbells. And the shape of the dumbbells was a little bit more difficult to get up, so I struggled a little bit. And then we moved on to incline dumbbell skull crushers, where we're really emphasizing the stretch of the triceps so that we don't develop any sort of elbow pain, and we kind of have a therapeutic movement while performing that. And then we moved on to the cable flies supersetted with push-ups. Now, The one thing that Elite FTS doesn't have is good camera angles, because they're more focused on the productivity of your training rather than the productivity of your social media. So I couldn't quite get a good angle to get the close grip push-ups supersetted with the cable flies that I wanted to, but that's fine. And then we finished off with some dumbbell curls, sets of 12 with I believe it's the 25-pound dumbbells. And that got us a good stimulus, good pump. And then what was cool is everyone kind of finished up at the same time. So we were able to sit around the table talk table and kind of talk about things in powerlifting and goals, plans, and everything without really divulging a lot about what we would be talking about on the podcast when it finally came down to sit down for the table talk. One of the questions I had for the homies at Elite FTS after we were done with our training day was, we're near Cincinnati, right? So what do I do with the rest of my day? What can I go see? What can I go experience? What food is good? Because I don't take a lot of vacations, and I saw this as an opportunity to experience a new culture, experience new things, and have a good time without any responsibilities to talk of while I'm out of town. And the homie said there were two places I absolutely needed to go. And the first was a pub called Thurman's, because they got big burgers and I'm a big boy. The second place was the Cincinnati Zoo. I hit over 20,000 steps going and seeing absolutely every single one of the exhibits. Now, I'm going to show you a lot of the footage I took, but I'm not a zoologist, so I might get some of the animal names wrong. I saw lemurs. For some ungodly reason, they had a duck exhibit. Some sleepy kitties, Steve Irwin's nemesis, we still haven't forgiven you, motherfucking Humboldt penguins, Fortnite horses with the Africa skin, happy little hoppy boys, the ideal female image, one murder kitty, two murder kitties, and if you know what's good for you, when a murder kitty or any kind of pussy gets real close to you and flirts with you like this, chances are you're about to have a bad time. Batman. A fellow super heavyweight competitor in its natural habitat. Bears with the face you make when you wake up from a nap and it's just 3 years after you had planned on waking up. Red derps. Your mom. A couple of gyats. Pumbaa. The only homie who can finish faster than me. Some throat goats. Some more super heavyweight competitors, this time doing cardio. Wintry super heavyweights. New Hampshire stop signs. And of course, Tom Brady. I had a good time out in the city and at the zoo, and I'm going to finish this video off by sharing some of the clips from the podcast that Elite FTS has shared. And if you want to see the full podcast in all its glory, it's episode 302. So here are the clips and have a wonderful day.
So what's the deal with the penguins? So, you know how when you go on Instagram, you see someone lifting something and their caption is either like, the devil said you can't handle the storm. And I replied, I am the storm. And you see them like benching 315 for reps or something. But then you come across a video of mine and you're like, I can't count how many plates there are on the bar. Is there 7 plates? Is there 8 plates? Let me check the caption. And then it's, Adelie penguins participate in necrophilia. And you're like, that's not helpful. So it's kind of like a joke where it's like people take themselves way too seriously in powerlifting, and they're here to be, they're trying to be hard, recognizing the more often you PR in more different ways, the better. But a younger lifter is not really gonna be able to do that. So I try to like keep that open line communication with my clients. Like I have a client who next week, they're having a deadlift party at his gym, and he was like, can I max out? And I was like, I'm going to change your program so that you can. Just know that everything after that's going to not be as fun. It's almost like we have that power gauge of fun, and it's like the newer lifters want to be as fun as possible, as often as possible. So you have to use RPE or reps in reserve. But I personally don't like RPE. It's almost like a necessary evil in order to program. And a lot of people, it's It's an RPE 6 until you miss groove. Then it's an RPE 10 or until you miss something. And it's like asking someone how long they last in bed. They're going to tell you 30 minutes, but you know it's 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's almost useless to be like, best diet is the one that you can stick to. The best program is the one that you can have the best results with, stick to the best. But then you get into program hopping where everyone's trying every program. They make no progress for like 3 years. And they're like, I give up. I'm doing CrossFit.
That's the biggest thing.
And when I was with Greg on fifth set, I would be able to tell, all right, my body's feeling extra fatigued. I need a deload now. And the way that Joe has me doing deloads, it's more like a downward undulation where I'll deload one thing here or one thing there. And it's usually like it'll be like a cluster set of deadlifts will be like 15 or 8x2 with at like 455, maybe a deficit to make it a little harder, but you've only got 60 seconds rest, maybe 30 seconds rest, where it's like you're still getting a lot of cardio, but you're not getting that CNS fatigue. And so you've got the load, the volume's gone down, the intensity's gone down. So you've got a little bit of ability to recover, but you're still getting cardio, where like, I remember, what was it? Dom Mazzetti said cardio is the ability to lose gains. And I'm like, no, it's the ability to, it's recovery potential is cardio. So I was able to recover faster, and I didn't feel like I was like, when I first started, I felt like I was drowning. I was like, Joe, I need a deload. I need a full week off. I need a deload. And he was like, bite the pillow. We're still going in raw. Let's keep going. You're a big, strong boy. You can do this. And like, as the cardio increased and I got more in shape, I was asking less and less for a deload. And I think between the American Pro 2 and Ghost Cloud, you probably get a lot out of your reps. So you should probably do a meet in sleeves. And I was like, okay. So I really humbled I didn't humble myself. The squats in sleeves humbled me. And at my last meet, the Ghost Clash 3, I had a pretty bad squat day. Peaking for that, I thought I was going to be mid 9s, and I ended up with only taking 2 attempts at the meet, and getting about, I don't actually know what was on the bar, but I know I wasn't happy with it. And I've discovered that I have patellar tendonitis, and I need to approach the ways that I'm going about things with my knees and everything a little differently. And that I'm really shying away from certain things in my squat because I've got this patellar tendonitis, and it feels like my kneecap is getting torn off every time I squat without wraps on, because you wrap up, you just go tight enough so you don't feel anything. That's how people should go about their love lives. But so I threw the sleeves on. I thought they were going to be just like wraps, like everyone says they are. And I really got humbled, and I'm like, so I knew that my total wasn't going to be big. So I was like, I don't care what my total is.